Nearly a century ago, two legendary players arrived at this position. Let's get into the analysis right away. White to move and win. Now, let's first assess this position. We can see that white has 6 pieces against red's 5. White also has a clear path to the king row. However, red is threatening an immediate 2 for 1 with 14-17 to even up the pieces. So how can white win this cleanly? Well, we know that going in for a king will just allow that 2 for 1. So maybe white has to give up a piece first. Well, if it gives up 23-18 or 21-17, red is just going to play 9-14, and we have even number of pieces. And while red is a little bit restrictive in its double corner, it still will allow for a clean draw. So we need to look further here and get as creative as possible into how white can win this. So let's really start looking at some of these other moves, being aware that 14-17 will be played regardless from red next to even up the board. So what if white makes another pitch to really disrupt red's double corner? And what white does is really another brilliant pitch, and that's 11-7, taking the piece off of 2 and further opening up red's double corner. So red is going to capture, and now we have the even number of pieces. White then is going to pitch 21-17, putting the red piece from 14 to 21. And now white is going to restrict that double corner completely by moving 23-18. So white was up 1 piece, and it just gave away 2 other pieces to further restrict this position. Now you may be thinking, okay, red really only has 1 move on the board, and you're correct. It has that 6-10, and now we are back to an even number of pieces. However, white has the opposition here, and if red tries to play 10-14 next, white is just going to get a king and then trap that piece on 11. So red has to move 5-9. White crowns on 1. And then again, red is very limited on what it can do. It can't move 9-13 because white is just going to fork that piece on 10. So red moves 10-14 next. And then white backs up to press on 5. And we have the captures, and now you can see red is completely in a jam. It really only has 1 move on the board to get a king, and either way, white is going to get that double jump. So if red goes into square 27, we have the 19-15 and the double capture, and the game is over. Let's get into the context of this position and of this game that was played nearly a century ago between 2 legendary players, Willie Ryan and Mike Lieber. Let's go back to the start of the game and talk about the opening and the mid-game, along with some of the key moves to even reach this fantastic position. So the opening that was played was 10-15 and 24-19. Now, you may not see this opening in your own games, but it is a good alternative. 10-15, the Kelso, is another good opening move, and it's a good deviation from the typical Old Faithful 11-15. So after the exchange, red plays 9-14. 6-10 is the traditional follow-up move, but this 9-14 is good as well. And then white attacks with 22-18 next, again toward the center of the board, attacking red's double corner. And then the double corner from red the counter of 5-9 is played. Anything else will further weaken the red double corner. Now white is going to develop 25-22, again, natural move out of the single corner. And red has a number of moves here, but Willie Ryan decides to open up the board and play this 7-10, inviting the 2-for-2 exchange, which I'm sure many of you can see on the board. And that is exactly what Mike Lieber played in this game, the 1915 double exchange. So red is going to capture, white is going to capture the two pieces, and then Willie Ryan opts to play the 3-10 capture first. White is then going to cover up to further avoid weakening his center of the board with 26-23. Willie Ryan is attacking white's double corner by moving 12-16 next, and white is going to do the same to red's double corner by moving 22-17 next. Red then goes toward the center of the board with 8-11, and white is going to sink the piece into 13 with 17-13 next. So very good development from both sides here. Red then plays 16-20, and published play at the time, and what was expected, was either developing out of the single corner with 29-25 next, or 27-24 and exchanging the piece off a 20. Mike Lieber plays possibly a cook here, which threw Willie Ryan by surprise by moving 32-28. This does create an open column here, which red is going to try to exploit right away, threatening with 11-16 and that 2-for-1. But Willie Ryan thought maybe Mike Lieber had something up his sleeve, which he certainly had in this game. So white is extremely limited. It's going to move 28-24 to protect that vulnerable column, hoping that red also moves for 8 next, which will actually lose, as white will be able to restrict all of red's movements. So instead, Willie Ryan plays 16-19, and of course, white has to jump 24-15, as 23-16 will allow that 2-for-1. After the captures, red is still going to capture 2, but white is going to capture with 30-23 next. And now, very natural moves, 4-8 for red, and white is going to look to get to the center of the board first by now exchanging 27-24. After the exchanges, red again, 8-11, and now we have 24-19. So a very critical junction at this point. There is still a draw on the board, but Willie Ryan could not find it. This is a very difficult position and really involves a lot of foresight here. The only move to draw on the board is actually moving 6-10, and then later moving 9-13, allowing that capture, and then allowing then red to suffocate white's position, ultimately get the piece back. But this is a very complicated line and something that Willie Ryan just couldn't see, and thought that this 11-15, which was played in the game, was the safest route. White obviously cannot capture 19-10 because of the 2-for-1, so it's going to go up a piece with 18-11, and now we get to the position with 1-5. Willie Ryan said this is one of his finest games, even though he ended up losing, and I think that's an important lesson, that you can play a great game and have a great game and still end up on the losing end. Sure, winning is always great. You want to win, but you can still appreciate when it's a great game, even if you end up losing. And that's exactly what happened in this game for Willie Ryan. So a spectacular game that required these two pitches here from white to go on and win. Thanks, as always, for watching.